Things keep getting crazier surrounding the Toronto Blue Jays and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. as now we are on officially day 2 of spring training, and we have some new reports from both Jeff Passan and some comments from Ross Atkins surrounding Vladdy's future. We're going to break that down in this episode, as well as discuss some new updates surrounding spring training with the Jays. We have sites of Jeff Hoffman, Max Scherzer, Jimmy Garcia, and some very intriguing injury updates to go over today. So there's a ton to break down as spring training is officially underway, but before we get into it, we are less than 5 subscribers away from 16,000. So if you want to help us towards that goal and you're enjoying the daily content, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and thank you guys for your continued support. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a ton to go over today. We're going to be focusing on a couple different things here. We're going to start with the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. situation, because Jeff Passan had a very interesting report, and he kind of gave some insight on not only Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s future in Toronto, but the self-imposed deadline and what that means. So let's just start with some Ross Atkins comments. So we have some new ones. Now, yesterday, I covered some comments. We're going to break them all down again a little bit here, but you can see this here, Atkins on the Guerrero extension conversations. And like I covered the first part yesterday, we've worked extremely hard on keeping Vlad here for a long time. The desire is strong, and we will continue to do that. Now, this is the second part, which we get some actual more specific quotes here. So I don't want to get too far into the weeds in the negotiation. Anything that I share decreases the likelihood of us getting something done, which is our goal. I can say we've worked very hard as his agent, Barry, to find a way if there is one. And I covered that yesterday, and it was a little bit, there's some skepticism there, because the if there is one is not what you want to hear when you're talking about a generational superstar on the Toronto Blue Jays that should have been extended months and months and probably years ago. And these were the comments yesterday. I saw your guys' comments as well. Like, they had to get it done. If they don't get it done, Ross Atkins is going to be on the hot seat, all these different things. But there are some more comments that were dropped here, and I want to dive into that. So, first of all, regarding Guerrero's deadline, we will be respectful of Vlad and have his desire to do that. We have to respect it, and we will never close the door, which, again, that makes sense, and we're going to come back to that in a minute, because Jeff Passan had a very interesting report about that. But this was the interesting part. Did Soto and Ohtani's contracts change Guerrero's market? Everything's information, and everything needs to be factored in. But it needs to be factored in historically and not reactively. Being disciplined to our evaluations, being disciplined to how we think about building the best possible roster. There's so many variables, and of course, new information impacts everything that we're doing. So he kind of hedges his bet here. And that's a very good question. Shout out to whoever asked that, maybe Keegan Matheson, whatever it was, because one of the biggest things that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in that podcast that he had earlier on in the offseason following the Soto extension and even the Shohei Ohtani one last offseason, it definitely changed Guerrero's market, right? Because we weren't even seeing contracts that big now. Now we're seeing guys like Alex Bregman get $40 million a year over 3 years, and how will that affect Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s market, albeit a very different position? Like, Soto and Ohtani's contracts absolutely affect the market, but it's an interesting point here, and he says, of course, everything's information. That's, Ross Atkins front office jargon. He says everything has to be factored in historically and not reactively, and that's a very valid point, though I think for Vladimir Guerrero Jr., their camp is obviously going to try to use as much, other information and have as much leverage as humanly possible. They want as much leverage to get their client and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. the most amount of money. And if you're Vladdy and you're seeing other players get 600, 700 million, you see that the Jays have offers, whether it be for Corbin Burns at 200 million, whether it be for Juan Soto at 700 plus million, you're going to say, hey, I'm the face of the franchise. I signed with you guys as an international free agent at 16 years old. I need to be rewarded for that. And he's going to be looking for that $450 to $500 million. So whether or not it makes, financial sense to factor in Ohtani and Soto, granted the fact, given the fact that they're different kind of players, it doesn't really matter. He is going to get paid. Now, he's not going to get paid the Soto money, but he's going to get paid a lot of money. And that's the big thing here. He's going to get paid a ton, and it absolutely does affect the Soto and Ohtani situation. But I think having Ross Atkins actually come out and speak about that is very intriguing. You don't really hear Ross Atkins open up to the way that he did here very often, especially regarding Vladdy, because as we know, he was very conservative in his comments. But he also had another piece of information. I believe this is behind closed doors. This is from Keegan Matheson's article. He said he has them. This is regarding Vladdy. The things we're looking for, he has. The teammate, how he compliments us moving forward, the process of how he gets to that performance. That performance doesn't just happen. We know the why. We see it every day, basically saying behind the scenes. We're under the hood, and we're very pleased. So this had fans a little bit excited because they see we're under the hood and we're very pleased. And some fans are taking that as, okay, under the hood of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and that they're going to extend Vladdy. They feel very confident in their ability to do so because they're under their hood, all these different things, right? I think the realistic scenario, what he's saying here is that they know what goes into Vladimir Guerrero Jr. having these but really last year, breakout season compared to 2022 and 2023. They see every single day behind the scenes the hard work he puts in. And obviously, it didn't translate in 22, didn't translate in 23 as much. But in 24, he came out and had a great year, and they see that, right? They know he's the player, the teammate. They see a lot of the stuff that we don't see every day, which is why they should be extended. This question asked for Ross Atkins was basically about how do you see him going forward? How do you see him as a teammate? All these different things, right? And now you see this, and if this is the comment he has in day one of spring training yesterday, and they don't go out and extend him, then what else would you spend the money for? Because players are only going to get more expensive, right? And that's the thing to keep in mind here. Players are not going to get cheaper, no matter what kind of player you get after their first 6 years of control. They're going to want a ton of money. That's just the way that this market is. So if you're not going to spend now, you're going to have to spend in the future on someone else. So why not do it on somebody who wants to be in Toronto, who has made it clear he wants to be in Toronto? His teammates love him. Everything, the fans love him, like everything. He is the #1 jersey sale driver, all these different things. You have your teammates saying that he wants to be here. The way he's talking to me, he wants to be here. Jays fans love him, all these different things. They want him on the team. And you have these comments coming out. If you don't get it done, you're in a very bad and peculiar spot. And regarding getting it done, we know the deadline's in 4 days. You can see this here. We'll continue to do that. We will keep the door open if there is one. Jeff Passan went to the Blair and Barker show, and basically Blair and Barker asked Jeff Passan, like, what is a deadline if only one side has the firm, I guess, date? As in this case, he's talking about if Ross Atkins and front office of the Toronto Blue Jays wants to keep pushing and keep asking and, presenting offers, I should say, to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. beyond the February 18th date, what stops, anybody from that happening? Now, Passan says, I see no reason why things are going to change once it gets past the deadline. So now, if you actually read and listen and read it, but actually like read into what he's saying and listen to the actual tone of his voice, he basically said, like, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has to stay strict with that deadline for it to actually matter. Because, I mean, if it comes February 25th and then Ross Atkins says, okay, fine, we'll give you $250 million or $450 million, then I'm sure Vladdy would probably entertain it unless he's having a hard deadline. Then he tests free agency. And the deadline is pretty big. But again, that's why Ross Atkins comes out and says that they're going to keep the door open to these negotiations. They're going to try to find a way of getting things done, and that they don't want to get too far into the weeds in the negotiation because that lowers the chances of them getting him, which is a little bit interesting too, because at this point, just extend the man. Just give him the $450 million, whatever it is. You clearly see him as the face of your franchise. You have no other choice. Your alternative now is to let him walk in free agency, let Bichette walk in free agency, and then rebuild from scratch. So an interesting tidbit from Jeff Passan there. It seems like even if he's not extended beyond February 14th, not all hope is lost, albeit if Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and his camp stick to that deadline, it'll be very, very interesting. So let us know down below what your thoughts are on that. Everyone wants Vladdy to extend. The situation continues to get a little bit crazier. You have Ross Atkins coming out and saying these things, that how important of a teammate he is to the team. And then, of course, you also have the fact that he's not signed yet. So very interesting. A couple other things before we wrap up. We have Jimmy Garcia, who looks very healthy. And according to Keegan Matheson, only has a 5th gear and is throwing the S out of the ball in mid-February. He always rips it hard in spring training. Having him back as a Toronto Blue Jay is fantastic. You got a prospect out of him, and then you get him back for, a pretty great deal as well. You also see Eric Swanson surrounding an injury update. He experienced some soreness after throwing a bullpen here. Got an MRI. Everything's good. I still feel strong. Hopefully, he can have a very good spring training. We know last spring training what happened to his son, which was obviously horrible, and he it affected his season. So if he can have a healthy season now, have his mind clear, everything, his mind locked in, and then he can be one of the most crucial relievers to this team, because we also see Jeff Hoffman. We're also seeing all these different things. So it's going to be very interesting. Let us know down below what your thoughts are. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. Cheers.